Let's begin with the basics by using some of these new data access objects and tools to build a data-aware desktop application. First, we'll need to attach our database that contains the inventory and sales records for our stock of antiques. Let's begin by launching SQL Server Management Studio. By default, it will prompt you for a server name and authentication model. Use the appropriate server name depending on where your database is stored. In our case, SQL Server is installed on the local machine, and we're using Windows Authentication to log in. Let's connect by pressing the Connect button. On the left-hand side, the Object Explorer peruses all the different objects that we have available on our machine. Let's take a look at the databases. Expand that. Here we see a list of application and system databases. Earlier, we had installed Northwind and Pubs as our sample database. Now let's go ahead and attach another database. Right-click on the Databases node and select Attach. This will bring up the Attach Databases dialog box. We could opt to install from a script, or we can choose to add using the Add button, which will allow us to look at the directory of files that we have available. SQL Server databases are stored as MDF files. We conveniently provided one for you. Select the Add button, and this will launch the Locate Database Files dialog box. By default, we've installed the inventory MDF file underneath the database folder in your project files on your desktop. You can navigate to it using the Select the File window. When you see the inventory.mdf, select that. Be sure that the file name records the fact that you've selected the inventory database. Select OK to add the file to your server. Once you select OK, you'll see that the MDF file location is now populated with the path where your file is stored. You'll also see the name of the database, Inventory. Down below, you'll see the original file names, the MDF file, which stores the data, as well as the log file, which is an LDF file, which has a log of all transactions that occur on the database. Select OK to add the database to your Object Explorer. Let's review to make sure all the objects are installed. Expand the Inventory node. Underneath the Inventory node, expand the Tables node. These are all the tables that you have available in your database. The main table is Item. The Item table stores any information regarding our items in our inventory. By expanding this table into the Columns node, you'll see all the different column types that you have available. It's quite simple, name and description and a category besides the date timestamps. You'll also notice that we have an Image table. We do have the ability to store multimedia images with our data. If you expand the Images columns, you'll see that you actually have an image. Notice it's of type bar binary. This is how we store images inside of SQL Server. The same goes for thumbnail. The thumbnail will have a smaller version of that image, which we'll use for faster data performance. We also capture information about the image, such as dimensions and metadata about the photograph itself. We also have a grouping table. The grouping table allows us to group together one or many items. There's a link table between the grouping and item tables that you'll see under item grouping. Likewise, we have a link table between item and image. And then lastly, we have shipment and sold information that contains information regarding any sales. Let's close Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio.